Hey guys, what's up? I didn't see you there. Welcome back to your friendly Summers Warlord channel, and today we're going to be continuing our beginner series. And you know what? Today is free rune removal day, which is a great day, and I have a lot to share with you guys. Some insight on what we can do on free rune removal day for beginners, and showing them what should they prioritize, stats or rune sets. Okay, so we're gonna be looking at which is more important as you're a beginner. What is going to be more important for you, stats or the rune sets? Okay, let's get right into it. I'm gonna show you a monster I'm building, another monster I'm building. So I'm building my second Lucian. So first off, before anything else, when we're looking at a monster, we're gonna look at the type of monster it is. So it's usually in this area right next to its level. It will say what kind of type of monster it is. So this monster right here is an attack type monster. So Lucian being an attack type monster, what you want to be prioritizing is attack percentages and as well crit rate and crit damage. So that's his major focus when you're looking at stats or rune sets for this kind of monster. So regarding the type of set or stats I want for this monster as a beginner player, you're gonna want a fatal blade or runes like rage blade. Okay, so it's a 4 set and a 2 set. So this is the 4 set fatal, so you need 4 runes in any slot, right? And then you have the 2 set, which is blade, that's going to provide the crit rate. Okay, but as a beginner, since the substats aren't the greatest and they're not the highest, what's going to happen is you're going to be putting these kind of sets in place, and they're not going to be able to give you the worth or the damage output that the crit damage is worth. So let's say you're a beginner player and you have like 166 crit damage, but then your substats are going to be so low, your crit rate is still going to be at 15. So literally you'll only have a 15% chance to proc that 160 damage, and that's not going to be you're not going to be a happy move when you don't crit. So this is why when I look at this, I'm either going to opt for attack percentage all the way, not focusing on crit damage or crit rate because I'm a lower player. That's what I'm going to be focused on, because I'll have the most effectiveness and the most bang for my rune re-runing. Okay, so you have the most effectiveness at this point. But let's say you don't have the rune sets, but you do have the stats. So this is where we come in. Let's not choose rune sets as in Fatal Blade. Let's talk about just stats, achieving what I want. So if I do have the runes and you have comparably lower stats than a Fatal Blade, pick the, even if they're broken sets. So like if I picked a shield, if I put a shield right here and a focus together, if the stats are great enough and they'll provide the best optimal effectiveness for the monster, meaning you will get childish video. Okay, hopefully that goes away. Okay, yeah, check him out. Well, so back to this. The runes on these monsters, the stats. So looking at the stats again, we have 2 different stats. Lucky enough, I was able to get 2 slots go in for this. So majority of the time, if you're lower level, you probably won't have 2 subsets going perfectly your way. Sometimes you'll just have them all random, like 1 violent here, 1 endure here, 1 shield there. That's okay. Don't let people tell you, or if they give suggestions, just be like, okay, that works. But if they look in your account and they're a higher player, they probably know what to help you on, especially if you're lower level, to focus on the stats you need to improve your farmer. So if Lucian was my farmer, this is exactly what I would be doing, looking for stats instead of looking for the actual sets. Okay, so make sure your attack is set, That's more important if you don't have the crit rate. And yeah, the substats are going to be much higher depending on 6-star and 5 stars. Okay, so we kind of went over that. So my suggestion for beginner players is stats all the way. So in the ruling or the battle against sets versus stats, I'd say stats takes this one for me. Okay, so let's look at another monster. Okay, because attack type is not the only type of monster. So then we have Bulldozer. He's an HP type monster. But the wackiest part about this monster is that if we look at his third skill, full power punch, strikes with every last bit of power left in the body. This attack will ignore the target's defense, but you will be stunned for 1 turn after performing this attack. The damage of this attack increases according to your defense. Okay, so this is not like a misinterpretation of on Comtu's part. This is actually what it is. It's going to be scaling according to defense, not on HP. Although Bulldozer is an HP type monster, he's going to be scaling on defense for the third ability. So if you're stuck which ends of what you should be using, what should be focusing, HP hit points percentages or defense, look at the skills and see which skill you want to be focusing on the most. So if we look at the second skill, body press, crushes all enemies and decreases the attack bar of each enemy by 30%. This damage of this attack is proportionate to your max HP and defense. So this one's max HP and defense. So if you look at that, okay, that's where the HP scaling goes into, and that's why he's an HP monster. Okay, so depending on which one you want to focus on and you feel you'll get more value out of it, go for it. Definitely go for the stats that you have and go for the skill that you're going to be using effectively or the most at whatever role you're going to be playing. And then the first skill is just a regular skill. This is proportionate defense. So you have the first skill and the third skill doing defense. So my choice in this aspect is, again, stats. So stats over sets. See, I'm not running that many sets, but stats. So, but optimally you would want to have, you know, all guard runes. But I don't have the guard runes for him. See, I don't have the optimal guard runes to make him more efficient. But what I do have are stats, and so I'm going to use these stats in the most effective way possible. So if you look at here, I have defense. In this one I have crit damage. And then I'll just need another defensive rune on this area, and then he would be really well. Okay, that would benefit him a whole lot. Okay, so we looked at an attack type monster, we looked at an HP monster. Let's see if we can find a defensive monster scaling on defensive abilities. So okay, here we have a defensive monster. Basalt is a defensive monster. His stats are pretty decent, they're alright, they make do what they can. Looking at the runes, we look at a monster that's rocking set. Okay, so this is a good example of a monster rocking sets instead of stats. Is because I had the optimal runes that I felt was sufficient enough to put him on a set. What this means is that regardless if I had more better stats, this monster would be more effective on my rune set, which is Violent Guard, than actually having a bunch of different stats rolling around together. Okay, and so if we look at his skills and we look at Hell Stomp, we have ability that's proportionate to defense. So okay, he's following his unit type or his monster type, which is defense. He's scaling, his third ability is scaling on defense. It's just great. It's always good to have a monster that scales specifically to their type, so you don't have too many requirements, because the more requirements you have, the harder it is to stat them, and the more stats you need, the more hungry they'll be. The second skill, also like our Bulldozer, has a dual sub requirement. So depending on which one you want to prioritize, which is going to be, do you want to prioritize your heals, or do you want to prioritize the attack bar decrease and damage? Okay, so if you're thinking about heals and you're looking at him as a defensive healer, then be my guest and put HP all the way with a little bit of defense. So Polar Roar, recover HP of all allies with an energizing roar and increase the defense for 2 turns. The recovery amount is proportionate to my max HP. That's pretty great. That's a pretty great set. And then with the first ability has no. So sometimes you'll have this case where they're not going to scale on anything. Okay, they're not going to be scaling on anything, so it won't be attack or defensive. So there'll be a scaling on the normal attack, so it's not going to hurt that much on the enemy. So it's not going to do much effect. So in this case, since you have 2 abilities that scale with 2 efficient stats that are your type, don't focus on the first skill. Okay, because there's no scaling on defense or HP for any of these the second and third skill. So attack, try to minimize your attack percentage as much as possible. So let's look at these runes. So this attack percentage can be rolled out, it can be grinded out if you're later in the game. Another attack percentage can be rolled out. Let's see if we can find more. We can't remove this because it's innate. It's an innate to the rune, which gives it a specific title. So this is a powerful violent rune. So you'll notice different names with the rune set if they have an innate substat with it. This one is a regular guard rune because there's no innate stat. Okay, so that's just like a food for thought, a little informative tidbit. Okay, so we have some flats to grind out too. So attack flat, yeah, that can be rolled for some HP to make it more efficient. Do we have more attack? Okay, this one's great. This one's decent. So you'll have optimal runes kind of like this one. Okay, great. Okay, resistance, great. So other than the attack percentage that don't need to be there, remove those that are not going to provide any efficiency, or it's not going to play the right role for you. So actually looking at this, we want to also look at what role our units want to play. So when we're looking at free rune removal day and our coming month, we want to do guild wars, or we want to do let's say increase our farming runs, or just anything AOs, so arena offense, that's what it means. If we want to better our arena offense, what we're going to want to do is we're going to be focusing on stats toward that. So if I'm crazy enough and I have Basalt as my only nuker, I could say, you know what, I don't really need heals. I don't need that much heals at all. I'm going to use it more as a buffer for myself and use this as my third AoE nuke. Then I'll put all my damage into defense, okay, defense percentage. Just like Lucian, same thing. Attack type monsters are much more easier. You just focus on the damage, especially when you're talking about arena AO, beginner arena AO. It should be easy for you to clear once you have your farmer with you. Okay. What else can we cover? So we went over the types. We went over which one we should choose, either stats or rune sets. And you know, as a beginner, as I suggested, it's going to be stats all the way for me. You should make the choice. Don't always take my word for it. If you see that you can achieve great stats with your sets, then go for it. If that's more efficient. On free rune removal, you have that luxury of changing out and looking at the stats. So I suggest like screenshotting your stats after you change it, remembering what kind of runes you put on there, and then removing them, and then putting on just stat focused runes on there, and saying which one will provide the more effectiveness and whatever part of the game you're working on, from Guild War, AO, AD, any part of the game, scenarios, farming. So that's important to look at. So yeah, you're just looking at the beneficial aspect of these monsters. Okay, monsters like this are kind of iffy because they have abilities that are not going to be scaling on any of their moves. So it's defensive monster, but look at this. There is no defensive scaling on him. So this is the important part when you're looking at what is his role. So what we call these units that strip or remove buffs, they're strippers. Okay, that's the term we coin them. They're strippers. So as stripper, they're going to be removing or doing some kind of effect to remove the enemy immunity, attack buff, anything, regardless. So in that case, just a little hint for beginners: if you have a stripper, make sure they move first, if anything, so that they can remove the buffs so your allies can do some damage on a monster, like armor break and then do damage. Okay, so that's very important. So in that case, on these kinds of monsters, speed is your go-to. Speed, HP, and a little defense. So it depends on where you're building for. So RTA is defense focus. So you're gonna focus on so real-time arena. So you're gonna be focused on defense, a tidbit more defense than you usually would. On regular arena, you can focus on HP all the way with your speed as your top priority. Okay, and plus accuracy. You gotta remember, if it doesn't say that any of the abilities are irresistible, remember that it's taking account accuracy and resistance. Okay, so make sure your accuracy is at a decent rate, something where you're happy about, but make sure you have enough stats to survive. You don't want to be going 100 accuracy and your HP is literally 10,200. It's like only around 10,000 or 12,100, like 2,000 plus only, and it's not gonna do much for you. Okay, because he's gonna be a wet noodle and he's gonna die. So that's a little something. Just make sure, especially in the early game, you want to make sure your units are surviving. You don't want to just completely put him on attack. You want to make sure he has a little bit of health, just so he can keep himself sustained. So if you have a healer with him, that'd be great. But only go for a full damage build if you're for sure enough that you'll take the first turn and wipe them before they can even touch you. Okay, so that's another thing. So now, finally, we're going to talk about effects versus stat sets. So this is a little different than what we talked about, prioritizing sets or stats. The type of sets we're going to be talking about, so we're going to go, instead of talking about stats and stats which we're going to choose, we're going to talk about specifically sets. So within sets, there's two categories of sets I define as the stats of the sets and the effects of the sets. Okay, so here you have stats. So percentage, crit rate plus, great, that's a stat. It's a percentage, it's a stat, it's gonna boost crit rate. Okay, on the other hand, you have sets like this. Okay, 22%. So okay, we're gonna look right here. There's always a question mark, so you can read up on it on your free time. Violent Sense. Engrave 4 pieces of this rune will grant the monster a 22% chance to gain an additional turn. The chance of gaining a consecutive turn will decrease by 45% each from the initial 22% chance. Available at the Dragon's Lair. Okay, so it even tells you where you can get it, and it even tells you the percentages consecutive, the chaining of it. Okay, so this was categorized as an effect because it's not going to give you a stat bonus per se, but it will give you an effect, which is an extra turn. So the extra turn is the effect, the additional turn. Okay, another effect we're looking at is Nemesis. Engrave 2 pieces of this rune will allow the monster to fill up 4% of its attack bar whenever it loses 7% of HP. So again, this is the effect set. Okay, so what's gonna happen is you're gonna gain attack bar per 7% HP. So 4% attack bar whenever you lose 7% HP. So this is an effect. Okay, it's a great effect. You won't be needing to think about that now, especially if you're a beginner player, and you probably won't be able to get a few of them unless you pull them luckily from from the world boss, or from the shop, or from a wishes. Okay, so don't really focus on them. If you do get some, just save them, because there might be some monsters that might need them. Okay, Will Rune is also a lot of people use Will Rune. It's for that first turn denial, because you don't want them to get you don't want them to get any effects on you in the first turn, armor breaking. That's why we run real. Engrave 2 pieces of this, so they even tell you how many runes you need for this effect to take place. Okay, so the monster will gain 1 turn of immunity. Okay, that might seem like a little, but it's really game changing, especially later in the game for you beginner players. Okay, equipping multiple sets will increase the duration time of the immunity effect. Okay, I wouldn't suggest doing that, but there are some people that do run double will sets, but that's only because they're doing that for a specific reason. They're not just doing it just because they think it's oh wow, I have 2 will sets. Okay, there's actually a purpose for them to have 2 will sets, so that's really good to look in. But yeah, so that's really great. Okay, shifts. So all these effects, so you can read up more about them. There's a lot more of the different sets you can read about that will effectively help you on deciding which one do you want effect or you want stats. Yeah, but so again, even on this point, looking at this, if you're on that set level, looking at sets versus effects, back again, I would say if the effect does not provide enough more than the stats, then you're gonna want to go with stats again. On stats all the way. Stats are the best thing you can do. Okay, so hopefully you learned a lot in this video. Please leave a like or a dislike, any suggestions, and leave a comment on what you need help with. I'm always here to help you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Late.